everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. This is going to be the weekly astro weather for December 18th through the 25th of 2022. We're getting to the end of the year, guys. Hopefully you're doing well. Happy holidays and, almost New Year. I'll see you guys before New Year's, but we're definitely going to be celebrating some Christmas holiday over this next week. The transits get a little colorful. Happy Sunday to those of you guys who are part of my Sunday morning crew. Thanks for joining me. To those of you guys who are new, welcome. Make sure you're subscribed. Click the link below. Every week on Sunday, we do the week in advance. We take a look at the astrological weather, what's coming our way, so we can kind of be forewarned and better prepared for what's coming in the cosmos. Wowzers. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's see what we got going on. Probably big news for the week. Obviously, Jupiter is going to be going back into the sign of Aries. Hopefully you guys like that video that I put out for you. Give us a little bit more optimism as 2023 approaches. Great time to be setting intentions. And we're going to be seeing Venus trine the North Node this week. So that's important too in terms of being able to focus on our stability, our values, our resources, our relationships, so we can better plan for the future. Great week to get work done. Great week to focus on budgeting, anything in regards to long-term financial or relationship planning. When we see trines to the North Node, destiny calls. So the week is going to kick off today on December 18th. We are going to be seeing that the moon in Libra is forming quite a bit of lunar aspects. Okay, so we've got the moon down here. It is coming into a sextile with the sun. So we kind of feel like the air and fire working together is helping us relate, moon in Libra, helping us find more positive, optimistic opportunities. We are also seeing the moon, unfortunately, come into a square with Pluto and in conjunct with Jupiter. Lots of lunar transits taking place today in general. Generally, when the moon is in Libra, we focus on beauty and harmony and partnerships and doing things with other people. But between the square to Pluto, the trine to Saturn, and the in conjunct to both Jupiter and Neptune, it's not the easiest to relate. We also really want to focus while the moon is in Libra on Venus. And Venus is moving through the sign of Capricorn. So actually yesterday on the 17th, you should have seen the sun square Venus and Mercury, and there was like a challenge in terms of partnerships and being able to kind of communicate plans, execute plans, things like that. So that energy is still kind of lingering. Moon trine Pluto does bring up some emotional tensions, especially in regards to who's in charge or issues with authority. Moon trine Saturn is about kind of talking about the bigger picture and what the plans are for the future. Being that we have got Saturn in Aquarius, Mars in Gemini, Moon in Libra, yesterday and today has all been about communication. Saturn seems to be one of the only supporting factors really in the skies right now, and you're going to be seeing a lot of that throughout these next couple of weeks because we're coming into Capricorn season. Now, something else that you're going to notice is that over the next few days, we start seeing Venus come into an in conjunct with Mars in Gemini, which is still retrograde. Nothing has changed there. But one of the themes that we're going to see with Venus in conjunct Mars is this feeling that relationships are a little disjointed. We feel the discomfort in terms of relating with other people. Masculine and feminine energies, right? Mars and Venus are not quite in alignment. So our actions and our desires, especially Mars and Gemini, how we're communicating is not really lining up with Venus and Capricorn. Long-term goals, stability, it can be more conservative. So there's a sense of like not really feeling like we're liking the way that people are communicating and taking charge. And you're going to see Venus that's going to get a little disgruntled. Venus will get disgruntled quite a bit over the next week or so as it gets closer and closer to Pluto. And this is where we're going to find that the trines happening between the North Node and Uranus are about changing things, changing our preferences, changing our values, changing our resources. It could be as simple as being like, I'm spending money in a different way, or I'm wearing a different color, or I'm trying a different food. Change is the only way forward with some of these aspects, you guys. Something else you're going to be seeing on the 18th is that Venus is not just going to be making that in conjunct to Mars, but Venus is also experiencing a square to Chiron in Aries. So thankfully Venus is in the superior position, but still Venus square Aries is kind of like, I think we're going to hear, just with all these planets in Capricorn in the skies of this next week, that there can just be more criticism. There can be much more responsibility. There is like a heavier sense of, dare I say, burdens that we are having to kind of work through or deal with. In Capricorn, it can be just about like, well, I have to because I'm the boss, or I have to because I'm the parent, or I have to because I'm the oldest. And the burden and the effects that it has on us personally. But Capricorn squares to anything Chiron and Aries, any Chiron or Aries aspects, is going to be like, I'm disappointed in you. You can do better than that. So we might have some really harsh criticism that's kind of taking place. Just having come off also Mercury that's been in a trine to the North Node in Uranus. So we're already talking about how can we think differently? How can we get out of the box? How can we focus on problem solving and finding solutions? So the criticism or the constructive criticism comes with a little bit of, I don't like this, I like this better, and I'm sure you can do better. So try to be sensitive to that, you know, on Sunday, that there can be quite a few things that can be triggering some wounds. And because Venus is superior, our goals and our relationships and our long-term commitments are often trumping anything in regards to our own personal needs. So there's a lot of like, well, you know, I don't care if you don't want to do this. You need to do this because, like, you know, grandma's expecting you to show up. So you might notice that there is like this battle that's going on between elders and superiors, especially tried and true traditional things versus what we would rather be doing on a personal level. And we feel like the pinch, especially all day today on Sunday. Like I said, that moon will square Pluto. That's going to be later today after about 3:30 p.m. Pacific, 6:30 Eastern time. So you'll notice that kind of emotional shift that's going to be taking place tonight. So lots of lunar aspects today. Today is not necessarily the most comfortable day throughout all these lunar transits. Then we're going to get into the 19th, and this is when Venus is, hello. Sorry, let me make this Aries rising. I did not realize that was not set on that. There we go. All right, so we're going to get into the 19th. Venus is going to start coming into a trine with the North Node. So once Venus hits about 12 degrees, we're in that. So early in the morning on the 19th, here we have Venus in Capricorn, tried, true, committed, traditional, more conservative, more about practical things when it comes to relationships or money. Venus in a trine to the North Node. The North Node is ruled by Venus, right? Taurus. So this is a really good day to really be paying attention to intuition. I know that sounds weird, but stay with me here. It's at a 12, okay? So we want to notice these like subtle little things from the universe that pop up that are helping us achieve our goals when it comes to stability, resources, money, feeling safe, feeling secure. Now, a lot of the actions that we take, right? Like I said, it's disjointed. We're seeing Venus and Mars that are in an inconjunct, so they're not really aligning. But in spite of that, Venus trine the North Node is basically saying, look, if I open up to taking the responsibility, if I'm willing to do the work, if I'm willing to be more committed, if I'm willing to be a little bit more traditional or kind of spearheading things to show people that I care about them, or to show people that I'm serious about my goals, or that I'm serious about my health, whatever, then we'll be able to see that physical change. So there can be alignments taking place on the 19th of being in the right place at the right time, and we meet somebody who helps us further our goals, Venus in Capricorn. We meet older people who can help further our goals. We meet artists or people who are associated with money or banking. So it's a great day to kind of feel the pieces of the puzzle come together, and it's able to help us plan more for the future when it comes to stability. Especially being that we're going to see some unusual aspects. You know, it comes out of the square with Venus, with Chiron. It trines the North Node, so we're seeing destiny in action in terms of being able to focus on our goals. And then in the next couple days, Venus will trine Uranus, and there's going to be some kind of dramatic change. Now, same day, the moon moves through Scorpio. So when we wake up in the morning on the 19th, the moon is in Scorpio. Obviously, we got to track when the moon is in the fixed signs this year, because we see that there's going to be conjunctions or squares with other fixed placements, which is uncomfortable. Fixed signs don't like change. And when the moon is in Scorpio, we feel collectively that we're more in tune with the shadow side, right? We're more in tune with our fears or pain or having loss or having to kind of focus on letting go of something. And I've said for a lot of this year, pay attention when the moon conjuncts the south node, because, well, the nodes are based off of the moon. So collectively, we all go through some kind of clearing out together. This will be a day where we may be a little bit more emotional because we're having to let something go. You are going to see that between Chiron and Aries, ruled by Mars, and Mars in Gemini, there is a sextile here, which is forming a yod to the focal point of the south node and the moon. So on the 19th, letting go, releasing, purging, right? We might feel really emotional, to be really honest with you, but that focus, with that being the focal point, tells me that we're letting go of something emotional that's toxic. It's the day that's like, I'm not eating this, I'm clearing this out, I'm letting this go. And we're feeling that push from the universe also with the sextile to Venus. Venus trine the North Node. A lot of it deals with money, resources, things. Can there be loss happening with the South Node conjunct the Moon? Yeah, some people might find out, oh, I'm losing part of my my funds, or I'm not able to get access to something that might be on like a trading platform, or I lost a piece of jewelry. Yeah, these things can happen, but I actually see it being really nicely supported between the sextile, and you've got a yod going in both directions. So the moon isn't the only focal point, so is Mars. So look for those little things that agitate you on the 19th. That's trying to get your attention. It's trying to get you to go, okay, let's clear this out. Or if something's a problem, I'm not saying make it bigger, but really take the necessary steps to go, I'm finally clearing this out. So detoxes, cleanses. I've heard a lot of people when the moon conjuncts the South Node in Scorpio tell me, oh my God, I had the worst bout of like food poisoning, or, I've just been sick to my stomach. Yeah, welcome to the South Node Scorpio. The Scorpio effects are very visceral purges and cleansing, sometimes through the bowels or even emotionally. So watch for those emotions that are coming up. Drink lots of water. You'll notice that through this transit, that conjunction to the South Node is happening closer to about 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, 8:30 Eastern. And just shortly after that, later in the evening, the moon continues to keep moving forward, and it opposes Uranus. So this will be around 10:45 Pacific time p.m., way early in the morning on the East Coast and other time zones. But this seems a little bit emotionally unrattled, a little emotionally unnerved. When we see planets conjunct the nodes, we see significant fated events happen. And when we see planets square the nodes, or square Saturn in this situation, you're going to see the same thing in the morning when we wake up on the 20th. So we're going to wake up on the 20th, which is Tuesday. And first transit we're going to feel is the moon square Saturn. So we're still reeling from what happened on the 19th. Like, there's a lot of emotional adjustment. When the moon conjuncts the South Node, there is this sense of like, oh, I'm having to let something go, and it opposes Uranus, which means we have to adjust to new physical circumstances. And then the moon square Saturn can be having a difficult time communicating and expressing our feelings, especially having the moon in Scorpio and the square to Saturn in its home sign. Not going to be the easiest to express how we've been feeling. So we might go to bed moody on the 19th. We wake up on the 20th, and it'll get easier as we get closer and closer to the new moon. Now, obviously, we're watching the moon move through Scorpio. It's getting ready to come into Sagittarius pretty soon. The moon will form both a trine on the 20th. Before that happens, to Neptune. So there's an emotional cleanse and purge. Take a bath, take a shower, listen to some music, meditate, you know, get it out, work with the water to be able to clear some of this energy. We're also going to start feeling the sun coming into the square with Jupiter, which is going to be very, very big during the time of the new moon. The sun's getting ready to go into Capricorn. And then Jupiter re-enters Aries. So lots going on the 20th. Jupiter moving into Aries, and that's kind of setting new intentions in regards to the area of Aries in your chart. Very action-packed. We've seen this happen several times, and I think it's basically saying it's time to initiate something new, something we have to do personally. And this is the third time it's entered Aries, and now it's here to stay until the spring. So we take the transits through the day. We see the moon come into a trine with Jupiter, and that'll be around 11:45 p.m. Pacific time, early in the morning on the 21st. But when we wake up in the morning on the 21st, we're going to feel that very strongly. The moon being in the sign of Sag is going to be more lighthearted, much more optimistic, more positive. And that leads us to the 21st, which is Wednesday. We're still feeling that Jupiter trine from the moon, but we've got the sun that's at 29 degrees of Sagittarius. All of these Sagittarius, Pisces, Gemini, mutable squares that have been going on has had us feeling confused over the last 2 weeks. It's had us feeling like there is change that's coming and we are having trouble sometimes coping with it. I'm really positive and optimistic about the fact that we're getting the second half of the month and we're going to see lots of positive aspects happening in earth signs. That's going to bring us a little bit more stability and a little bit more security. But keep in mind that we are in this balsamic phase. So even though the sun and the moon are both in Sag, which is loud and exciting and sassy, and it's going to give us the opportunity for freedom and expansion, a balsamic phase right before the moon's coming into the new moon phase is kind of grumpy, right? There is a sense of not feeling totally thrilled about being around other people. We need time for quiet. You know, we're realizing that things are changing, so you might feel like it's time to kind of wind down a little bit. And that moon is then going to come into an opposition with Mars, which is combative, emotionally intense. This is around 5:45 p.m. Pacific, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be on Wednesday. So we can be more prone to emotionally lashing out, having arguments, having accidents, feeling rushed. So watch for that, especially with the moon trine Chiron. We might be feeling like there is a sense of us reacting to something. And, you know, Mars in Gemini, moon in Sagittarius, Neptune in Pisces. This is all about what we believe, how we communicate those beliefs, and whether or not stuff is true. So that's still a mutable square, which says that things are changing in terms of how we communicate what we're learning and how we share information with the world. So there is something that's kind of getting closed out. It's getting wrapped up through that transit. Later in the afternoon, we see the sun enter into Capricorn. So this is now Capricorn season. Happy birthday to my December Capricorns. This is the winter solstice here in the northern hemisphere. So this is the darkest period. From here on out, we're going to see the light grow until we get to the spring in Aries season. Very potent, powerful time for just hitting reset. If you guys saw my previous videos where I talk about the new moon in Capricorn, it's all about goals and setting those goals. If you saw my Jupiter and Aries video and I talk about how both the solstice as well as the new moon is kind of like, okay, let's get serious about what we're trying to achieve over the next 3 months. It's very, very, very potent, ripe with the opportunity to be able to obtain some of those goals and be able to see the physical materialization of that happen over the next 6 months. However, the solstice chart with all these planets in Capricorn, a balsamic phase. I don't really feel like we're going to feel the effects of getting serious and getting down to business still for a couple days until after that new moon that we're going to be having at 1 degrees of Capricorn. On the 21st, we're also going to see the sun that's going to be at 0 degrees of Capricorn square Jupiter at 0 degrees of Aries. So this is the world axis points: 0 of Aries, 0 of Cancer, 0 of Libra, 0 of Capricorn. It's been my experience that when planets hit these degrees, there are really big global events that happen, or something that affects the masses. Okay, so we may see the effects of this between now and April, or it might fully come full circle by the time that we have a full moon that's going to be in Capricorn next summer. But if you have any planets 0 to, like, let's say 2 or 3 degrees of the cardinal signs, watch out, because you're going to notice your life it's going to get really loud here over the next couple of days, because it's going to activate all of those points, especially if you have a 0 degrees cardinal rising. Sun star Jupiter makes me feel like this is about us taking action and focusing on responsibility so we can initiate some of the things we're hoping to initiate in the spring. It can be some ego flare-ups. It can also be some interactions with people that feel a little bit intense or combative or a little bossy. That's definitely something that we see with some of the cardinal squares. But for the most part, I think the new moon is incentivizing us to get real about what we are creating, what we're building, our careers, our legacy, our responsibility. But it's going to be a Saturn party with all these planets in Capricorn and also Saturn in Aquarius. So things are going to feel very heavy, slow, and it doesn't feel like the end of the year where it's like everybody has a good time. It feels like a lot of us are still having to send emails, or we're still working, or we're running around, or we're doing errands, and we're having to kind of get things done. So it doesn't feel as relaxed as generally things would feel during the holiday season. We will also see Venus in Capricorn come to about 15 degrees. So it will be trining Uranus. So what's interesting is that with that aspect, generally it's pretty positive. Like, I don't see this being as combative as like a Venus-Uranus square. This is about positive changes in love and also relationships. At a 15, it's how we communicate. So it's a lot of like, okay, I really care about this person. I really care about this situation. I really care about this job. I'm going to get it done. Let me find a new and exciting or innovative way of being able to do that. You'll see that more when the moon goes into Capricorn as well after the new moon. But I find it interesting that it's after Venus has trine the North Node. So it's like, okay, this is Venus trine the North Node. This is what I value. So this is the work that I'm willing to do. Venus trines Uranus. It's like, okay, well, this is the new way that I'm going about making money, the new way that I'm going to be focusing on learning a new talent or expressing myself differently. But generally, we see positive changes happening with relationships and finances during that trine. For some, it can be a stroke of luck and just something just lands in your lap and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't see this coming. It might be an unexpected bonus. It might be an unexpected gift or some lucky chances in love. While Venus is making a trine to the North Node and Uranus, it's also forming sextiles to the South Node. So we'll actually see that the 19th, the 20th, the 21st, where while this talks about how we're building towards a new future, Venus sextile the South Node is saying we can leave the past behind. We don't have to bring all the pain and the heavy lifting and all the things and the fear with us. We can focus on what we're building moving forward. So it's a really great clearing opportunity where people have gains. They may have the opportunity to heal, or they may even have the opportunity to pay something off or get out of debt. So that's really positive, especially for those of you guys who get some nice Christmas bonuses. Then we move into Venus. I think Venus in a trine to Uranus also can be fun. Having fun, parties, social gatherings. Like, I think that this would be a good time for that. Even in spite of the balsamic moon, this might be where, people are starting to kind of celebrate and they're getting into the holiday mood, or they're going to like holiday parties. All right, so then let's take this to the 22nd. And not too much going on the 22nd. The only thing we're really going to see is that the moon in Sag is coming into a sextile with Saturn in Aquarius. So this is a little bit of like a quieter day. Moon sextile Saturn, we're able to socialize and really be optimistic about the future, Aquarius. The moon also forms a square to Neptune, so there can be some emotional cloudiness or feeling a little bit more exhausted, feeling a little bit unsure about our feelings. There can be lots of stuff coming up in regards to storms and issues in regards to travel. Sagittarius is connected to travel, specifically air travel. And with the square to Neptune, and it's coming out of that opposition with Mars, I'm anticipating the 19th really through like the 22nd can very much be visibility issues, clarity issues, issues in regards to, did the reservation come through? Did we end up, missing the flight? Is there a storm which is creating a longer layover? These are things that we hear when we have mutable squares. So I'd say watch for that. Those are really the only aspects on Thursday. So Thursday is, for the most part, pretty quiet. And then we come into Friday on the 23rd, and we're going to have that new moon in Capricorn. So it'll be a new moon at 1 degrees of Capricorn. It's square Jupiter. So this is big emotions, big feelings, big fresh new starts, big actions, right? So it's like wherever there is cardinal energy, there's something new that's being initiated. So through the goals, the responsibility, the heavy lifting, we're making these changes so we're prepared for ultimately what's going to be coming in March, April, and May when planets are coming into the sign of Aries. And you'll see all of that sweetness when planets conjunct Jupiter, or when Jupiter kind of gets in higher degrees. And we're going to start seeing eclipses taking place. We're going to have 2 new moons, one new moon at 0 degrees and another new moon solar eclipse at 29 degrees. So if you guys saw my Jupiter and Aries video, you saw all of the crazy transits that are coming in the spring next year, which is really incentivizing us to become more active and entrepreneurial and more self-sufficient. So that's really exciting. Like I said, there is this Capricorn stellium in the skies. And for people who are not like used to this energy, it can feel very heavy, very dominating. For some people, the Saturn energy almost feels depressing, or it feels like it is very heavy. So one thing I would recommend for everyone is to just be focused on your goals this week. Use the new moon to be able to incentivize you to get excited about where you're going to be in about 3 or 4 months' time. Go back and watch that Jupiter in Aries video if you guys want more information on that. I put out a new moon in Capricorn video too, so you guys are well aware in advance with what this may bring. But like I said, for those of you guys who aren't used to this energy, for me, and a lot of my friends, or a lot of people who I know who are around my age, we were born in the late 80s, early 90s, so we have a Capricorn stellium. Some of you guys even born in the 90s have this. You have the Saturn Neptune conjunction, or the Uranus Neptune conjunction, and the Pluto stuff right now is activating some of you guys in the mid 90s. Anyway, the Mercury retrograde is going to be very personal for you, but I'm used to this energy. I've learned that the Saturn limitation, the boundaries, the restriction is for good reason. It's to kind of get us to grow up, to mature, to focus on something, to hone in on something. And a stellium is anytime we have 3 or more planets in any particular sign. So during the time of the new moon, actually the 23rd, really all the way in through Christmas Eve night, 23rd, 24th, we have the moon, the sun, Venus, Mercury, and Pluto. So we have our emotional bodies, our ego and our consciousness, our emotions and our feelings, or our values and relationships, our mind, and also transformation, all in Capricorn. Oh my gosh. So it's going to be hard for us not to feel this heaviness in the air. And Capricorn wants us to focus on getting serious about our future and our responsibility and where we're going and what we're building and what we're creating out in the world. But this can also be about government. This can be about government structures. This can be about those who are in charge, limitations, walls, borders, police officers, people who are involved in big business. So we're going to hear, especially because Mercury is getting ready to turn retrograde, we're going to hear a lot this week about some of these topics. I've said in the past, and I'll keep saying this, right after the holidays, we are going to get wind going into the new year of just how serious the economic situation is in the world. The fact that I think inflation is probably a lot more than what the governments are leading us to believe, that the banking system is really on the brink of being completely exhausted, and that there is going to be certain steps that are going to be taken by those who are in control to be able to limit our ability to do things. It can be about taxes, because Mercury conjunct Pluto can be about changes in taxes. It can be a change in direction with laws, regulations, borders, the list goes on. But for the most part, focus more on what your goals are and your long-term goals. When we have a new moon, it takes 6 months time for that to fully mature. So when the sun comes into Cancer next summer, and it completes and it becomes a full moon in Capricorn, we'll start to really reap the rewards. But you're not gonna have to wait that long. You'll start seeing some sprinkles of goodness as early as March or April. So hard work is here to be done with this stellium. In the evening, we're going to see the moon continue to keep moving through, and it's going to come into a square with Chiron. So first it's going to square Chiron around like 5:30 Pacific time on the 23rd, and moon square Chiron can bring up some hurt feelings. I look at all this Capricorn in a square to Chiron that's just like, it doesn't matter, it's your job, get it done. And like a lot of people being like, we're on the verge of holiday break, like why are we having to have a meeting, or why am I having to be the person responsible for this? Like, I know it's tough out there. I know that there's a lot of people who are working more than one job to be able to make ends meet, and I think that people are exhausted, and I think that they're tired. And the squares to Chiron are definitely going to be felt with that moon. This is also running around and I think getting things done before the end of the year, and some people feeling like that it's just a burden doing this, perhaps in the midst of working or just having to go out there and face the cold, Capricorn. Then we're going to have, in light of the square, the moon will trine the North Node and Uranus. So it's kind of like saying, yeah, it's hard, but it's like building strength. It's building on your foundation. Like you're focusing on being able to bring something in and have more stability. And so yes, the moon is in its fall in Capricorn, but when it trines its own North Node and also Uranus, it does things differently. So I think we'll be surprised to see that there's more people actually working over the holidays than usual. And people are doing that because, they want to have more financial security or stability. Perhaps it's that, there's a lot more people who are saying, I'm making dinner, we're not going out to dinner. We're going to have a home cooked meal, or we're not buying a bunch of gifts. We're going to be creating things and designing things and giving them as gifts because there's more value in that, right? So just pay attention to some of those subtle changes right around the 22nd, 23rd, because it's going to be felt, and know that the trines to the North Node and Uranus is helping us kind of get into the swing of what can be normal in the future, what can be bringing us more security down the road. Things only get more intense from here. I've said this several times, but I'm going to keep telling you guys just so you're aware. The moon's going to keep moving through Capricorn on the 23rd. It does come into conjunction with Venus, but that's going to be like at 2:30, 3 o'clock a.m. Pacific time, early morning on the East Coast. And generally, like, the moon-Venus connection is sweet, although it's going to be short-lived. The moon will pass Venus and it'll come into conjunction with Mercury. So there's a lot of calling people maybe on Christmas Eve, telling them, hey, I miss you, I hope you're well, I love you, wish I could be there with you. Like, if you have to do that stuff, do that early in the day. Try to get that done if you can, ideally like before 11 p.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Pacific time. That's like what, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern, while Venus is conjunct the moon, and the moon's also conjunct Mercury. So this is collectively going through a situation where we're taking doing the job and being willing to pick up the phone, call our family or our relatives, send them an email, send them a gift card, like whatever, because this is a really sweet aspect for communication. Same day, on the 24th, Mercury comes into a sextile with Neptune. And so this is another reason why I feel like it can be great for being soft and sensitive, because Mercury in Capricorn is more kind of diligent with information and communication. It can be a little bit more assertive, and it can be a little bit more serious in its tone. When it sextiles Neptune, it gives us the opportunity to be like, I'm opening up and softening, and I'm more receptive. And I think we're going to see a lot of people who are going to be reflecting on the past, because the moon is the past and the moon's conjunct Mercury, and talking about, how things used to be, in the good old days during Christmas, or reflecting on who we don't have with us over the holidays. So a lot of people could really be feeling quite emotional and quite in their feelings. That's definitely going to be a theme, the 24th and the 25th. Obviously, the holidays can be really challenging for a lot of people. I think mental health awareness needs to be a really big thing this week with some of the conjunctions to Pluto and the sextiles to Neptune. Open up to that softness and be willing to be more sacrificial and more sympathetic to other people who might be in need. That's the best way to kind of use that energy. Okay, so on the 24th, we then see in the evening, the moon is going to keep moving forward, and it's going to pass Mercury. So it's conjunct Mercury up until about 11 a.m. Pacific time. And then the moon starts heading for Pluto. So I've said this several times. If you have a choice when to celebrate Christmas or the holiday time with your family, I would recommend doing it in the morning on the 25th, not on Christmas Eve on the 24th. Because the moon and Pluto are going to come into conjunction at a 27. That tells me there can be some really harsh emotional exchanges. People can be feeling really down or really threatened, especially when it comes to rules and restrictions and regulations. The Moon-Pluto aspect in general, we have it once a month. So I know some of the stuff that I say is general, but it can bring up a lot of turmoil, especially at home or with relatives or with older relatives, Capricorn. I think it can also produce sometimes dangerous or confrontational type emotional dynamics, right? So being that we're really going to have that pretty much all afternoon on Christmas Eve, Pluto and the moon are going to be in contact really until almost the better part of like 9 p.m. Christmas Eve is not the best time to spend it with family. Use that energy to be like, I'm wrapping gifts, I'm, checking off things on my to-do list, I'm, getting things done, like to be really connected to that, and wait until Christmas Day. Because when we wake up on Christmas Day, we're going to be seeing that the moon is going to be in Aquarius. While the moon's in Capricorn, it's conjunct Pluto, we're busy, there's lots of emotional turmoil, we're feeling responsibility, it's just going to be a little bit easier to kind of work our way around some of those things. Especially once the moon moves into Aquarius and we wake up in the morning on the 25th, the moon is in some much more positive aspect. It's in a sign that's in more social, so it's Aquarius. It's more detached. There's not as much drama as there was in Capricorn. It's in a sextile here to Jupiter, so we're feeling like partying, having a good time, being more optimistic, traveling, being free. We're also going to be seeing that the moon is going to come into a trine with Mars. So we're feeling the incentive to call people, move around, go places, do things. It sounds weird, but like this holiday to me with the moon in Aquarius, Saturn in Aquarius, sextiles to Jupiter, it's a great holiday to spend time with friends. Like there's the family that you're born into, that's your blood family. And then for some people, it's the friends that they spend the holidays with or end up FaceTiming with, or you go to parties, or it's like some collective group that may not be your relatives. So this might be a holiday where we're realizing that friends are family as well. Great for parties, great for travel. If you can get out of all of those Capricorn responsibilities. Even though the moon's going to be in some much more positive aspects on Christmas Day, we still have like Venus and Mercury and Pluto in Capricorn. So there can be some very heated exchanges with relatives, with gift-giving experiences. There can be some fixation on being bossy and being controlling and telling people what to do. So it can be some intense times with like in-laws and like relatives. And I could definitely see some people who just can't get out of family responsibilities, and somebody's just like, I don't care, you need to go drive 2 hours and pick grandma up. That's the way it is. It is about elders and responsibility for elders. And we can definitely see some just harsh communication. Keep in mind that Mercury's also getting ready to go retrograde here, guys. Okay, it's going to turn retrograde at 24 degrees. So that's going to be happening next week. But still, we're going to start really feeling the intensity of a Mercury retrograde in Capricorn, where we're here to reevaluate our goals, sandwiched between Pluto, which can be obsessive, and Venus, which deals with relationships, romance, and work. For some of us, it's like this feeling that's like it's hard to be present with family in the holidays in the midst of, in the back of our mind, I have to find a job, or, I'm trying to focus on my finances, or my boss is calling me, asking me if I can do things while I'm supposed to be having time off. It can be really, really, really distracting. What else on the 25th? That's pretty much it for the 25th. So like I said, if you can have fun, if you can socialize, if you can spend time, going somewhere, doing something, I can see a lot of people that are going to be like, we're not doing the family thing, we're going out of town, or, we're celebrating with our friends. But I can also see there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be having a difficult time coping with changes in terms of either family or home dynamics. So just try to be sensitive to that. Try to lean on, other people who want to celebrate with you, who may not be family, so that way they can still have a positive experience. I'm hoping that's what comes of this. And that's pretty much this week at a glance. So yeah, probably the bigger transits is that new moon in Capricorn, focusing on our goals, Jupiter in Aries, getting us super active and where we're going, and a very intense Christmas Eve. I have a feeling that there's also possibly going to be a lot of kind of weird, spooky, paranormal things happening. I know that sounds weird, but it's almost like, I said this before in a previous episode, but like the ghost of Christmas past. Christmas Eve and Pluto is conjunct the moon, and we're also going to see just days after Christmas that Mercury is going to turn retrograde, and it's going to be conjunct Pluto and conjunct Venus. So there is this energy of hearing from the past, reminiscing on the past somehow coming and playing a role in what we're wrapping up. Unfortunately, there's been several long years of planets that have been in Capricorn, and there's been a lot of change in our work dynamics and our home dynamics. So things are very different for a lot of people this year. If you're having a tough time, reach out, ask for help, talk to somebody. If those of you guys who need to speak to a specialist or a therapist, or if you need to reach out to a hotline, please do, because I definitely think that this is going to be a theme with the conjunctions and the sextiles to Neptune. Try to focus on staying warm with all these planets in Capricorn. It is about the cold. And infrared saunas can be helpful. Hot liquids and teas and spices can be helpful. A little bit of light weightlifting and just staying active, moving around, getting on an upward incline, sometimes on a treadmill, being able to practice yoga, anything that's going to be embracing this Saturn energy so you can move past some of the limitation. A lot of it's going to make sense as we get into the new year and we realize why this was such a significant turning point, because there are some big energy changes that are happening in 2023. That's pretty much it for the week. Just as a reminder, we're not having live readings on Saturday because obviously Saturday is going to be Christmas Eve. So I want you guys to be able to spend time with your friends and family and enjoy yourselves, and I would like to do the same. I'll be moving the live readings to this Friday. So it's going to be 7 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern. That will be on the 30th. So I'll post the link if you guys want to join me. We're going to be doing live astrology readings. I will see you there. And horoscopes are coming very soon. I'm working on that for you guys in this next week for the month of January 2023. I'm also putting together an overview that I'm going to be doing if that's something that you guys are interested in as we're wrapping up the end of this year. I'm not sure if I'm going to try to do a live show or if I'm going to film something. All of this content I'm filming in advance because I'm in the midst of changing my office and moving some stuff around. So you guys are watching stuff as I'm in the midst of doing that. Send good thoughts for me as I'm in the midst of a retrograde shadow in my 4th house. But I will be back and be creating content for you guys more so live in this next week. If you like my content, please leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm, and make sure you're subscribed. If you'd like to book a personal reading with me, head over to my website at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. I'd be happy to get you scheduled. We are booking now in March of 2023. On my website, you can also sign up for my newsletter if you want to be alerted as to when I have new products and new courses. We've got a new astrology course starting in January, and we've also got products on my channel page if you guys want to take a look. Otherwise, I hope it's a good week ahead. Happy holidays to those of you guys who celebrate Christmas, and I will see all of you guys next week. Take care.